My family said they wanted to discuss my finances over dinner. When the check came, they all suddenly had no wallets. I smirked, put down a single dollar, and walked out without a word. The text I got didn't say congrats on the new car. It didn't even bother with a how are you. It just read, we need to talk about your financial choices. Dinner Sunday? No punctuation, no warmth, just a cold plate of passive aggression. And the worst part? I already knew exactly what that dinner was going to be. Not a celebration, not a check-in, definitely not a we're proud of you. No, this was going to be a full-on financial intervention. From the same people who once asked if they could claim me as a dependent while I was juggling 3 jobs and surviving off gas station taquitos. I wish I could say I was shocked, but honestly, that's just how they are. In my family, success is like a narrow hallway with only 3 doors at the end. Doctor, lawyer, or just be Mason. Mason's my older brother. The golden boy. Business degree, permanent LinkedIn energy, and absolutely 0 actual businesses. He's pivoted more times than a broke startup founder in a recession, and somehow still gets applauded for giving it a shot. Me? I went a different way. I built a digital marketing agency from scratch. Taught myself everything. SEO, branding, ad strategy, cold outreach. While working nights and showering at the gym because my first apartment had a pipe that leaked into nothing. But I made it work. Fast forward 5 years, and I've got a real team, a real office, and a brand new Audi R8 that I paid for outright. That's when the family group chat lit up like Times Square. Mom asked if it was a rental. Dad just sent a thumbs up emoji. And Mason? He dropped, hope you're saving for when TikTok disappears. That was their version of support. So when they said they wanted to talk about finances over dinner, I didn't need a calendar reminder to know what was coming. I just said, sure, Sunday's fine. Because, deep down, and I hate admitting this, there was still that tiny, stubborn piece of hope that maybe this time they'd actually say it. We're proud of you. Spoiler, they didn't. The restaurant they picked had white tablecloths and chairs that weighed as much as small horses. Dad was already halfway through his whiskey. Mason was doing that obnoxious tap-tap thing with his credit card, like he was seconds away from buying the New York Stock Exchange. I sat down and smiled. Mom leaned in with that polite, performative warmth. We're so glad you could make it. Of course, I said. I love mandatory family bonding. That's when she slid a folded printout across the table. Some blog post called *The Illusion of Fast Money. How Startups Fool Themselves. Subtle as a hammer. Thought you might want to read it, she said. I nudged it aside like a bad menu. I'll file it next to that Dogecoin article Mason sent me. He smirked. I just think it's smart to be cautious. Cautious, I thought. This from the guy who once paid a psychic $300 to tell him which cryptocurrency felt spiritually authentic. I kept my mouth shut. I've learned that when my family stages one of these ambushes, it's best to let them talk. They always end up revealing what they really want if you give them enough time. And sure enough, just as the appetizers landed, Mason swirled his wine like he was auditioning for Succession and casually dropped the line. So, I've been thinking about starting something too. Like a digital project. Maybe you could mentor me a bit. Bingo. There it was. The real reason I got invited. They didn't want to warn me. They wanted to use me. And the best part? The check hadn't even shown up yet. Mason leaned back, tapping his glass with his fingernail, wearing that smug shark grin. I mean, I know digital's your thing, he said, but I've got big ideas. Could be mutual value, you know? I almost laughed. He said it like I was some investor he'd found on LinkedIn, not the little brother who used to sleep in a damp basement while he was jetting off to leadership retreats in Aspen. Mutual value, I echoed. Sounds promising. Dad perked up, slicing into his steak like it had personally wronged him. Exactly, he said. That's what we were hoping to talk about. You've been lucky, and we think it's time you paid it forward. There it was. No congratulations. No, you earned this. Just, you've been lucky. As if my success had fallen out of a vending machine. Mom jumped in, her voice soft but sharp. Sweetheart, we don't mean it negatively. But think about your roots. Your family. You're not an island, after all. Right? I said slowly. Islands have peace. Mason snorted but stopped when I didn't laugh. Mom pressed on. You know your brother's had some challenges since the market turned. He bought an e-scooter brand called We, I said flatly. It turned out exactly how it sounded. Mason shrugged. I had a vision. Of going broke? I asked. Because that part's clear. Dad set down his fork and gave me the patented, disappointed principal look he'd perfected after 20 years of being vaguely ashamed I didn't play varsity soccer. "Don't be cruel," he said. "That's not who we raised you to be." I bit the inside of my cheek, not because I was holding back anger, but because if I said what I wanted to, the whole night would have gone up in flames. "You didn't raise me," I wanted to say. "You raised Mason. I raised myself." Instead, I did what I always do, smiled and softened my tone. "I'm listening," I said. "What did you have in mind?" Mason's eyes lit up. "Okay, so picture this, an online coaching platform. I help young entrepreneurs. I bring the vibe, the relatability. You handle the back-end stuff, ads, design, whatever." "Oh," I said. "So I do all the work." "You'd be the wizard behind the curtain," he said proudly. "And I'd be the face. I've got followers. People listen to me." I raised an eyebrow. "Mason, your last YouTube video was you yelling at a salad." "Yeah, but it got views. Because you spelled kale wrong in the thumbnail." Silence. Mom sipped her wine. Dad cleared his throat. "Well," he said finally, "it's something to think about. The point is, you've built something valuable. But value doesn't exist in a vacuum." There it was again, the phrase that always made my skin crawl. Family, the magic word, dropped like a coupon that only worked when they needed a favor. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just empty. That kind of emptiness that settles in after years of being told you're too much or not enough. Too quiet, too stubborn, too nerdy, too different. Always too something. The main courses disappeared while Mason rambled about strategic partnerships and brand synergy, words he probably picked up from a podcast he didn't finish. Dad nodded along like he was co-signing a business deal, and Mom tossed in helpful comments like, "Just imagine what you could do with a strong face for your brand." Right, because what every thriving business needs is a strong face with no clients, no website, and a podcast that died in 2021. But hey, family, right? Then came dessert. And with it, the check. A sleek black leather folder landed in the center of the table like a silent dare. Nobody moved. Mason studied his hands like they held the answers to life. Dad patted his shirt pocket, frowned like a man who'd just discovered pockets were optional. Mom smiled sweetly. "Oh no," she said. "I think I left my wallet in my other purse. I'll Venmo you later." I looked at them, three fully grown adults, staring at a steak, a bottle of wine, grilled octopus, creme brulee, and suddenly not one of them had a functioning wallet. I didn't say a word. Just opened the folder, glanced at the total, and smiled. Because they thought they were pulling one over on me. But tonight, they were about to learn who really set the table. The silence thickened. Mason tried to laugh it off. "Man, I swear I brought my card. It's in my gym bag." Which was hilarious, considering he hadn't been near a gym since the pandemic, and even then, it was just to film a TikTok in the parking lot. Dad waved vaguely. "We'll sort it out later. You've got it covered for now, right?" I looked at him, then at all of them. Mom sipping her wine like she was at communion, Mason checking his phone like he was too important for this, and Dad dabbing his mouth with a napkin like he'd just finished a keynote speech. They were so casual, so sure this was how it would go. Because it always did. Guilt trip, fake concern, make me pay literally. But tonight? Tonight was a rerun with a plot twist. I took out my wallet slowly, letting the moment stretch like a rubber band about to snap. Then, without a word, I pulled out a single crisp dollar bill, placed it gently on the check, and closed the folder. Mom blinked. "What's that?" $1, I said. "My contribution." She laughed nervously, waiting for the punchline. "Wait, what?" I pushed my chair in, calm and steady. "You invited me here under false pretenses," I said evenly. "You didn't want to talk. You wanted to critique my success, pitch your failed ideas, and have me pay for the honor." Mason scoffed. "Wow, dramatic much?" I looked straight at him. The same brother who once told me I'd never be the kind of guy people look up to. The one who totaled my car in college and blamed me for parking it wrong. I smiled. "Don't worry," I said. "You can take the lead tonight." Dad's face started to flush. "Son, this is childish." "No," I said, stepping away from the table. "Childish is pretending to forget your wallet at a dinner you planned. Childish is using the word family like it's your personal ATM code." I didn't yell, didn't slam anything. That would have been too easy for them. Something to point at and say, "See? He's ungrateful." Instead, I just turned, took a quiet breath, and walked out. The hostess looked up as I passed. "Everything all right, sir?" she asked softly. I smiled. "They'll be here a while." Outside, the night air hit me like a reset button. There it was, my midnight blue R8, gleaming under the streetlight like it knew this was its moment. I got in, shut the door, and rested my hands on the wheel, not to think, but because I knew they were watching. A few seconds later, the restaurant door opened. There they were, squinting into the night like confused tourists. Mason pulled out his phone, probably to fake call an Uber. Dad scanned the street like his car had vanished into thin air. Mom, teetering in heels too tall for sidewalks, muttered, "He's kidding. He'll come back." I revved the engine once, not loud, just enough. Then I eased away, smooth and unhurried. Took a left at the corner and disappeared. I didn't need to watch them scramble. I knew how it would go. A $200 check, no ride, 3 forgotten wallets, and me, gone. The family group chat stayed silent for exactly 14 hours, which, in our world, is basically a 5-alarm emergency. No, where did you go? No, hope you got home safe. Not even a we're sorry. Just static. They were waiting me out, expecting me to fold, to slide back into the role I'd always played. The nice one, the peacemaker, the walking wallet with feelings. Then, at 11:04 a.m., Mason finally texted, "Dude, that was messed up. Real mature to ditch your family like that. Also, the scallops were mid." That last part almost made me laugh, because nothing sums up our emotional depth quite like a Yelp review after an ambush. I didn't reply, not because I didn't have words. Believe me, I had plenty, but I finally got it. Silence is the one language they can't twist. They can guilt you, shame you, talk you in circles, but when you say nothing, they panic. Sure enough, 2 hours later, Mom texted, "I think we all said things we didn't mean, but you didn't have to embarrass us like that. Your father is very upset." Of course he was. He actually had to reach for his wallet for once. Still, I didn't respond. Not yet. That night, I opened my personal files folder on my laptop. Inside was a spreadsheet I'd made years ago, half out of spite, half out of survival. Its title read, "Things I paid for while they pretended not to notice." XLSX. Line after line, every quiet favor was there. $478 for Mason's crypto conference hotel, labeled emergency. $112 for Mom's Uber rides to her book club for 2 months. $256 for Dad's home office setup, which included a $70 mug warmer and exactly 0 actual work. It wasn't about the money. It was about the expectation, the unspoken rule that I'd cover what they wouldn't, because that's what I did. They never asked because they didn't need to. They already knew I would. Like I owed them my success. Like I was only valuable when I made their lives easier. And the second I stopped, suddenly I was arrogant. Cold. Different. But I wasn't different. I was just done. Done being the useful one who never got celebrated. Done getting the scraps of affection while Mason got the full course praise. Done pretending that being the better person meant being the quiet one. So I posted a photo. No caption. Just me standing in front of my office building. New suit, fresh signage behind me. Bolt Strategy Group. My company. My clients. My space. The likes came fast. Old classmates. Former coworkers. Even a professor from community college who once told me, "You've got CEO energy, just no money yet." And then, right on schedule, came the DM from my cousin. "Your mom's spiraling. Says you're flaunting things now. Told my mom you've changed." I typed back one sentence. They ignored it when I was poor. Sent. Archived. 2 days later, I got a missed call from an unknown number. Then a voicemail. It was Dad. His voice had that fake calm he used when he was trying not to sound angry. "Look, maybe we should reset. I don't like how that dinner went down. But we're still your family. Let's not throw everything away over one night. That's not what we do." I played it once. Not because I was thinking about replying, but because I wanted to hear how small he made it sound. One night. As if the problem began and ended with that dinner check. As if there weren't years of smaller cuts. Missed birthdays, overshadowed graduations, dismissed milestones, because I didn't follow their script. That dinner wasn't the issue. It was the summary, and I was finally ready to close the file. By the weekend, the damage control campaign had begun. Not in the family chat. That thing was deader than Dad's mobile app startup from 2016, but in the one place they knew I couldn't ignore forever, social media. It started with Mom's vague Facebook post. Some people forget who helped them when they had nothing, paired with a photo of her holding a wine glass in front of a fake fireplace. 3 hashtags and the classic broke heart, pensive face, folded hands energy. This from the same woman who forgot I existed during Mason's entire graduation party, when I literally handed her the camera and she said, "Oh, you're not in this one." Hours later, Dad chimed in with his own masterpiece. We raise them. We support them. And then they grow up to treat us like strangers. No tags, no names, just dramatic lighting and enough passive aggression to fuel a power grid. But anyone who knew us knew exactly who it was about. Later that night, Aunt Cheryl texted, the woman who greeted me at every family gathering with, "Wow, you look tired." Her message read, "Hey kiddo, everything okay with your folks? Your mom's been posting some heavy stuff. Just thought I'd check in." I stared at it, smirking. Check in. Translation: the family group chat's on fire, and she wants the inside scoop before Mom calls crying again. I replied politely, "All good. Just prioritizing peace right now." Which, in my language, meant, "Don't drag me into your side quests, Cheryl." But I knew what this was. It wasn't an effort to make peace. It was PR. They were rewriting the story. In their version, I had abandoned the family. I was too successful to care. I had let money change me. All without saying my name, of course. Just vague enough to look noble while tossing mud. And the worst part? It worked. By Monday, I was getting DMs from cousins I hadn't seen since the lice outbreak of 2007. "Hey bro, your mom posted something about family pain. Hope everything's okay." "Yo, are you really not talking to your parents? I heard something went down. If you need a break, cool, but maybe don't air it online." I hadn't posted a thing. Not a single caption, not even a cryptic quote. Just one photo of me in front of the Bolt Strategy Group sign. No words, no drama. They'd built the whole circus themselves. But Mason couldn't resist joining in. He posted one of those motivational stories with a lion silhouette and white text. Some people forget where they came from. That's fine. Just don't expect to be welcomed back. This from the same man who once called himself a visionary brand architect and launched a clothing line with no clothes. The same man who still owed me $2,000 for seed funding his podcast, which ended after one episode. I didn't respond. Didn't even screenshot it. Just opened my contacts, found his name, and renamed it. Mason, blocked IRL. No drama. No announcement. Just quiet removal. Later that afternoon, an email arrived from Mom. Subject line, coffee. The body was short. Maybe we could talk, just the two of us. I know emotions ran high. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to reconnect. I miss you. That last line almost got me. Almost. But then I remembered the call I made when I landed my first full-time job, telling her I'd finally been hired with benefits and a raise. Her response: "Well, don't let it go to your head. Your brother's been struggling." When I got promoted, nothing. When I opened my first business account, silence. But now that I had boundaries, suddenly, she missed me. I hovered over the email for a moment, thinking about all the times I'd let myself be guilted into reconnecting, all the times I swallowed my pride just to sit at a table where I was served nothing but obligation. Then I archived the message and went back to work. Because while they were busy posting quotes and playing victim, I was busy building the kind of life they once said would never happen unless I got my head out of the clouds. Now my head was clear, and I didn't need applause. Just distance. Tuesday was supposed to be quiet. I had my usual routine locked in. Client call at 9, strategy sync at 11, lunch alone at the cafe next door with a podcast in one ear and peace in the other. Then, at 12:43 p.m., I heard the front door to the office open. I assumed it was a walk-in, maybe a local business owner who'd seen the sign and wanted consulting help. But when I stepped out of my office and turned the corner, there she was, my mother. Hair curled, lipstick perfect, wearing that same fake pearl necklace she always pulled out for special occasions. She looked like someone heading to a book club she hadn't read for. I froze, not from fear, but disbelief. "Hey, sweetie," she said, smiling like she was in a sitcom. "You've done so well for yourself." I glanced toward the open door. "You shouldn't be here," I said quietly. "I was just in the area," she replied. "I thought I'd surprise you." "Right." Because my office was in a commercial district 40 minutes from their house, and she just happened to stumble in during my lunch hour. I didn't say it, though. I just closed the door and gestured to the chair across from my desk. If you want to talk, sit. She did, and for a second it felt like I was 17 again, back when she'd ignore my texts all afternoon, then act like nothing happened when she picked me up. So, she started, your father and I have been talking. Of course they had. And, I asked, we think it's gotten out of hand. The tension, the silence, the drama online. Your posts, my posts. I cut in. She flinched, just a little. You know what I mean. I leaned back in my chair. Do you actually want to fix things? I asked. Or are you here because the story's getting away from you? She looked hurt, which was her favorite mask when cornered. We're your family, she said. We've made mistakes, but so have you. I nodded. Sure. Like paying for dinners and getting lectures instead of thanks. She frowned. Don't be petty. Right? Petty, I said. Like pretending to forget your wallet after asking to discuss my finances. Her voice softened. You embarrassed us. And you embarrassed me for years. I shot back, my voice sharp but not loud. Every time you called Mason the smart one. Every holiday dinner where you joked about me being obsessed with gadgets. Every time I got something right, and you changed the subject to his latest failure. She looked down. I kept going, not for her, but for me. You never celebrated anything I built. Not my first job, not this business, not when I hit 6 figures. The only time you said you were proud was when I paid your mortgage, and even then, it came with don't tell your father. Silence filled the room until she finally said the line I'd been expecting. We were just trying to do what was best for the family. I stood and pointed to the door. This is what's best for me. She looked stunned. You're kicking me out. No, I said. You're leaving. She stood slowly, adjusting her purse like it had betrayed her. At the door, she turned. You know, your brother's having a hard time. He's lost a lot of friends lately. I smiled cold. Maybe they got tired of forgotten wallets too. Then I closed the door, gently. Later that afternoon, during a client call, my phone lit up. Dad. His voice sounded smaller than I'd ever heard it. Son, he said, we have a problem. The mortgage payment didn't go through. The bank called. They want a meeting tomorrow. Please, can you help? We need a bridge loan. The words landed heavy. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because I recognized the rhythm. Urgency, guilt, ask, patch, repeat. I closed my laptop and looked out the window at my team. Heads down, working, building something we fought years for. Bolt Strategy Group. My company. My life. I could have wired the money, been the fixer again. But I'd learned something over time. I wasn't their emergency fund. I was their son, and they'd forgotten the difference. So I made the call that changed everything. Set up a meeting at the bank. I told my lawyer. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll bring my parents. Bring copies of everything. The next morning, the 3 of them sat across from me in a beige office, eyes hollow. The manager walked through overdue payments, warnings, escalation notices, and finally asked, can anyone here cover the amount today or provide collateral? My parents stared at each other. Dad's jaw tightened. Mom's hands shook. Mason kept glancing at me like I'd pull cash out of thin air. I opened my briefcase and laid out a neat packet, a record of every transfer I'd made over the years, a proposed stabilization plan, and an offer. Not a gift, a structure. I'd arranged a short-term purchase of their mortgage through an LLC. It would stabilize their situation, but only if they agreed to specific conditions: public retraction of their online posts, a signed record of past debts, and mandatory mediation for any future financial discussions. Their faces shifted: hope, confusion, fear. This isn't punishment, I said evenly. It's the first boundary you've ever had to respect. It's accountability, I said flatly. If I step in, there are terms. If you refuse, the bank follows its standard process. Dad blinked like I'd just spoken another language. You'd buy our mortgage? You? Why would you? Because I'm not your automatic safety net anymore, I replied. I'll protect the house if there's a real plan to stop this cycle. Not because I owe you rescue, but because I won't let the roof over the people I grew up with disappear out of neglect and theatrics. Desperation is a powerful negotiator, and they agreed fast. The manager nodded, papers shuffled, signatures flowed, and the air in the room loosened. Relief had a strange scent, part carpet cleaner, part stale coffee. On the drive home, Mason muttered, "Thanks, man. I don't know what to say." "Say you're sorry," I told him, meeting his eyes in the rearview mirror. "And mean it." He swallowed and looked away. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like someone who'd finally learned to put the mortgage on the table instead of handing over cash. Control with terms. Dignity instead of charity. I'd done it my way, not as a humiliation or a secret bailout, but as a clean transaction with boundaries. They'd been given a choice. Rebuild honestly or let the bank take it. Either way, I was done being their unpaid parachute. I drove away not forgiving them, because forgiveness wasn't the point, but knowing I'd stopped being their soft landing. The game had changed, and for once, I held the playbook. It didn't happen overnight, but a few weeks later, everything shifted. The paperwork was finalized. The mortgage stabilized. They kept the house. But the old dynamic didn't survive. For the first time in my life, I had leverage. Not out of spite, not to win, but to finally set a line that came with consequences. That line arrived through DocuSign. The document was titled Personal Boundary Agreement. Clause 1. No unsolicited financial requests. Clause 2. No uninvited visits to my home or office. Clause 3. No use of my name, company, or image in public posts, family gossip, or Dad's bizarre Facebook videos where he pretends to be a motivational speaker. Violate any clause, and the LLC would automatically initiate the sale of the house. Simple, dry, enforceable. At first, there was outrage. "This feels extreme," Dad wrote in the family chat. "Why are you treating us like strangers?" Mom texted, "Bro, it's not that deep," Mason added, somehow missing the irony. I didn't answer. Instead, my lawyer sent a revised copy of the agreement with timestamps of every previous violation attached for clarity. After that, silence. And then, compliance. The guilt trip stopped. The vague posts vanished. The cousins went quiet. The house stayed intact. The family chat turned still, not muted, not ignored, just peacefully unused. I hadn't blocked them. I hadn't cut them off. I'd just stopped confusing chaos for love. Months later, standing in my new downtown condo, I looked out at the skyline and realized they never actually knew me. They only knew the version who paid, who fixed, who stayed silent. But they didn't know the man who drew a line and refused to move it. The man who built something under his own name and finally said, "No more." That was enough. That was peace. That was freedom. I poured a drink, the city lights stretching out beneath me, when my phone buzzed once. Unknown number. Just a picture. One of those low-effort family comes first memes with a blurry sunset, a sad puppy, Comic Sans text, and 3 words underneath. "You'll regret this." I smiled and pressed block.